All right, hey families. So I'm out here at the big soccer complex that we have out here in Albuquerque. My son is in his first tournament with his club soccer team today. So we are out here. I'm sporting my super awesome Aquaman sunglasses. And anyway, they are playing a team from Mexico and they are getting smoked, poor things. But they're having a ton of fun, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So today I want to talk to you guys about how to get your kids to focus, right? So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. It's so incredibly important, not only for kids to have ADHD, but really any kids, is how do we engage them in a way that helps them to focus for a decent enough time, right, to actually get their work done. So first of all, I want to just kind of go over a little bit what we talked about yesterday. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, be sure and go back and look at that, because basically we are covering our overarching strategy that we use in Nature Matters Academy to engage your kids in order to build resilient kids. So we know that resilient kids have self-regulation. We know that resilient kids can think critically, and we know that resilient kids have to be connected to their parents. Hey Jeremy, hope you guys are having a good weekend. We know these are incredibly important characteristics. So if you haven't seen that video, go back to yesterday and watch that. We also learned that really the big gap that we have here with our kids is support. We have all the books, right? We've read all the books. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We have the online courses. We've downloaded those, right? We've attended the webinars. Many of us have been in therapy, and therapy is really good while you're in therapy. Often when you stop being in therapy, that's when you kind of start losing those effects, right? And so what we know is that we need support and we need accountability. And those are the two things that are incredibly important that you guys are getting this week in the boot camp, and that we can certainly help you with in the program as well. So fun engagement question for today. What's your favorite flower? So we are out here in the middle of the desert. I'm looking around me and I see some desert willows. Desert willows have beautiful, beautiful flowers. They range anywhere from pink to purple. So go ahead in the comments, let us know that you're here. Type in what your favorite flower is. We would love to know. And then I'd also love to know, do you have a kid with ADHD or just a kid that lacks focus overall? And if you do, let us know, because Teresa and I, we both have ADHD kiddos. We have different types of ADHD in our family, which is really important because we can help the kids that have more the inattentive ADHD versus the hyperactivity ADHD. So let us know in the comments what you got. We'd love to be able to help you out with that. So I'm going to start with a few myths about ADHD. Number one is this myth that you have to be hyper. Certainly not true. There are plenty of kids that have more the kind of distractibility. They're kind of off in la la land, that kind of thing. So it's a really common type of ADHD. It's not always your hyperactive boy that has no impulse control, right? Another thing that we commonly hear is that kids grow out of it. And the truth is that is not the case, right? I'm an adult with ADHD. Sometimes I have medication to help me with my ADHD. It's never something that people grow out of, because it's a neurobiological condition. And so what happens is people get better at dealing with it. They find strategies that work for them and they get better at dealing with it. So something exciting just happened. I don't know if you guys are hearing all the screams. Another one that I've heard a lot: if kids can focus on something, they don't have ADHD. 100% not true. We actually just left a pediatrician because of this very thing. They kept saying, well, if he can focus on something, he doesn't have ADHD. And I'm like, you obviously know nothing about ADHD, because that is our superpower, right? We may not be able to focus on things like budgets and things that really bore us, but if we're interested in something, then we can spend literally days without sleep studying it because we're so engaged. And so hyperfocus is a great quality and arguably a superpower of ADHD. So, and then let's see. In Nature Matters Academy, we know how to work with kids with ADHD. Again, I have ADHD. My kids have it. Teresa's do. We have different types in the academy, and so we really work hard to give parents the strategies you need in order to deal with your type of ADHD. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's like all of the conditions. Sensory processing. Some people are sensory avoiders. Others are sensory seekers. There's all different types. And we need to figure out kind of where your kid is. That's what we do, right? That's kind of what we talked about is our zone of genius in Nature Matters Academy, is that we're really curious. And because we're curious, we ask good questions and we solve problems, because not all kids are the same, not all parents are the same, and we need different strategies that work for our family. So I want to tell you guys another kind of alternative supplemental type of treatment that people often use, or at least should be using, for ADHD. It's something that we use in Nature Matters Academy all the time. It's getting outside in nature. You guys, there is a pretty substantial amount of scientific research behind this idea that getting kids outside who have ADHD, that nature around them actually fills their attention bucket. So all of the noises, all the sounds, all the different feelings, all the things that they can get from being outside, it fills their attention bucket so that when they go to do schoolwork, they can actually focus long enough to do it, right? And this is huge for schools. Teachers, they need to be getting their kids outside more because it can reset the children and help them to focus longer. If you are homeschool, this is gonna be a huge secret weapon for you. Before your kids sit down to do something hard, something that maybe they wouldn't naturally be able to focus on, you wanna get them outside. Get them outside for a 15-20 minute walk. Do one of our nature walks that we do, and get them outside, get them doing something different, and then sit them down to study. So again, this is not my opinion. It's something that we see over and over and over in the kids that we work with. Plus, it's backed by a pretty substantial amount of scientific literature that that has shown positive results for nature with ADHD symptoms. All right, and then last thing or I guess one more thing that works is really diet. So with our ADHD kids, something that Daniel Amen has found, his name is Dr. Daniel Amen, he does a lot of brain research, he's a psychologist, he does a lot of brain scans and helps people to kind of figure out how their brains work a little bit better. And he has found that people with ADHD, this is years of research, right? He's been doing this for decades. And he has found that people with ADHD, they function a lot better with diets that are low carb and low simple carb. Complex carbs are great, right? Low simple carb and then high protein and good fats. And so think about breakfast. Breakfast is going to be a really important meal to set up your kids for success before they go to school, before they start homeschool. So think about something like maybe eggs and bacon with a side of whole wheat toast or whole grain toast. Think about things like oh my gosh, like a breakfast sandwich, right? So a breakfast sandwich with egg and ham, and then on something that's just a small amount of bread, right? Like 2 half pieces of toast or an English muffin, but make sure it's whole grain, make sure it's whole wheat. Cereal is probably one of the worst things we can give our ADHD kiddos. And it's not because it's this horrible, awful food, because there are some cereals that are better than others. But at the end of the day, the carb load, especially the simple carb load, is so high, and the protein and the fat level is so low. You get a little bit of protein and fat from the milk, of course, but those levels are a little bit lower. So set them up for a good meal right before they go into their schoolwork, and you're gonna see a huge difference. Set them up with a good meal, take them on a walk, and then send them off to school. And the last thing that really helps, again, this goes back to Dr. Daniel Amen's research, and you guys look him up. He is a brain scientist, and he's does what they call SPECT scans of the brain, and they look at different people and what parts of their brains are more activated, less activated, hyperactivated. And he has found that meditation, where there's deep breathing, it actually gets more oxygen to the brain and helps it to function better. So another thing that you can do with your ADHD kiddo is you can feed them a good breakfast, get them outside and walking for 15 to 20 minutes before they start school, and then also do a little bit of meditation with them. Sit down, breathe for, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be super long, but kind of taking these deep breaths and helping them to focus on their breath so that they can get more oxygen to their brain. Because research shows, these scans that Dr. Amen does on brains, it shows that after meditation, after these deep breathing exercises, that they get more oxygen to their brain. And if they have more oxygen in the brain, especially in the prefrontal cortex, right? That's where those of us with ADHD, that's where we struggle. And it'll help us to have a better executive functioning skills. So things like organization and, knowing where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, those kinds of things. All right, guys, so that's what I have for you today to help with focus is diet, get outside nature, be active, and then do some breathing with your kids. And also, you guys, Nature Matters Academy, these are the kinds of things that we do. We study the research behind this stuff, and then we incorporate it into our work with the kids. And we help parents to be able to, like, okay, well, your child can't focus longer than, 5 minutes. Well, let's see if we can get that up to 10 minutes, and let's use these strategies to do it. Because in Nature Matters Academy, that's the big difference between us and a book, right? With us, you have support. With us, you're gonna try one thing, and then if you figure out that it doesn't work, then you're gonna try something else. And so you are always, we are troubleshooting with you. We are there walking this road right there with you. Because as I said, you guys, my zone of genius is just being curious. If you want to know how a particular supplement like magnesium helps with ADHD, guess what? I'm going to be looking at the research. So is Teresa. And we are going to be helping you ask the right questions and then solve the problem to be able to help your kid to focus for longer periods of time. Because at the end of the day, I mean, our kids are going to have jobs, right? They're going to have to go into the world and actually work and be a part of society and be a part of community. And if their attention span is the, like size of a gnat, then they're not going to be very productive in that area. So we want to be able to give them the skills now. Because again, so many people believe that ADHD just goes away when you grow up. It doesn't. The reason you don't see it quite as much, there's a lot of adults with it. And yeah, I can usually tell. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. But there's a lot of adults with it, but they learn these coping strategies over time. Some of the coping strategies are good and they help. Some of the coping strategies are bad. And we want to set up our kids for success early on with coping strategies that work now, and that they have enough that they can kind of trade them out as they go. All right, guys. Brian, you want to say goodbye?
Bye.
All right, we've had fun with hanging out with you guys today. So we have our strategy calls. If you want to hop on a strategy call, click on the link. Teresa, if you can put the link in there, that would be great for us. And then also put the link in for the program, because number one, we would love to help you out with one strategy that it's going to help you to address one problem that you're currently facing. And then in Nature Matters Academy, you guys have 3 months of us basically helping you problem solve and helping you find solutions that not only work for your kid, but for you, right? There are some solutions that don't fly with me. Even though they might work with my kid, I have a really hard time doing them. And we've got to find the system that works for the family. And we want to help you guys do that. And we would love to help you with that. I don't know if you've seen the video of little Jackson, but that just gives you an example of how much we love your kids and we love your families, and we want to help you with these things. So yeah, I guess I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Bye.